2014 NCAA tournament coverage here on Campus Insiders. I am Bonnie Bernstein, joined by busiest guy in the business these days, Seth Davis. Seth, I saw you during the selection show, and you said that Louisville getting a 4 seed was one of the most surprising things you've seen in the last couple of years. Why so?
Well, because they were in the conversation for a 1. I mean, I didn't have them as a 1, but I certainly recognize that they deserve consideration. So to have them not only be not on 1, but had to be, down on the 4. If you look at the other 3 seeds, I mean, Iowa State wins the Big 12, so that I can see. But you've got Syracuse, Creighton, and Duke there. If you ask most coaches who they would rather play of those 4, then they would say that Louisville would be the least of those 4. So for them to come up on the 4 line was pretty shocking to me.
Cardinals certainly have momentum, but not much in the way of big-time non-conference victories, which is something that probably stood in the way. But they do have a potential second-round matchup with Kentucky. I looked at the Wildcats. I really sort of felt like this was a young team growing up in the SEC tournament. They're in my Final Four. How about you?
Well, they're not in my Final Four, so, as I say, fortune favors the brave there, Bonnie, so I commend you on being bold. Listen, Kentucky's had a rough season. They played Florida very well in the SEC championship game, but let's remember, this is the same team that lost to Carolina and lost numerous games down the stretch, lost twice to Arkansas, which didn't even get in the NCAA tournament. They're a very young team, and they could potentially play against Wichita State, which I think is going to be a terrific game, but for Kentucky to go to the Final Four, I think that'd be a pretty big surprise, but it's the NCAA tournament, and surprises happen.
Hey, I'm a risk taker. I like risks. What can I say? 8 seed for Kentucky, by the way. John Calipari's lowest tournament draw ever. All right, Seth, give me an upset special.
Well, I've been talking about Stephen F. Austin all season long, Bonnie. The Lumberjacks from the Southland Conference, they haven't lost a game since November 23rd, so that's 28 straight wins and counting. I think that winning is a habit. They don't have great size, but potentially, they're playing VCU in the first game. VCU's best three-point shooter is injured, and if they get UCLA in that second game, UCLA also doesn't have great size. So I think Stephen F. Austin is going to be this year's Florida Gulf Coast. I like them to get to the Sweet 16.
I also heard you talking about Harvard possibly overcoming Cincinnati, which is something I have in my brackets as well. We got to wrap it up. Give me your Final Four, Seth.
Final Four, mostly chalk this year, Bonnie. Not too much of a risk. I like Florida and Michigan State on one side of the bracket, and then Wisconsin coming out of the West over Arizona, and then Wichita State. I had a really hard time deciding between Wichita State and Louisville. Remember, Wichita State was up by double digits midway through the second half of the Final Four last year. I think Wichita State carries its confidence over not only to make the Final Four, but to get to the championship game where they will lose to Florida, and Florida will cut down the nets as your 2014 NCAA champions.
There is no taking risks for you. That's why you always say chalk on Twitter. He is our Mr. Basketball, Seth Davis. Thanks so much for the time. I know it's been a busy day. Get yourself some shut-eye.
Thank you, Bonnie.